Today in the crypto space, we see the market taking a bit of a dip after a nice recovery. Bitcoin down approximately 4% and Ethereum right around that $2,600 mark. The rest of the crypto space, the altcoins, pretty much going sideways, waiting for Bitcoin and Ethereum, the heavyweights, to give them a signal for a further continuation to the upside. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, I want to talk about one altcoin, one project that is currently looking for its bottom, and that project is called ONDO. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's see what's going on with this general market. We see that the overall market cap, a slow grind to the upside, no doubt. While that's happening, we see the trading volume continue to kind of just look slumpy. Nothing major. We get a bit of relief here and there. You can see that we've been getting a slight rise of volume in the last little while. We did continue a little bit of a sell-off. We did get a bit of a pop to the upside in the last little bit. But generally speaking here, guys, you can see that the overall market participation is not there. There's not a lot of volume. There's not a lot of interest currently in this market, which leads me to believe that a lot of the volatility that you're going to see in the next little while is very untrustworthy. So we got to be very careful here not to get trapped up into price action. Bitcoin kind of going sideways, as you can see. Ethereum doing the same thing. Now the question is, do we actually break out of these sideways structures for a continuation up? Whenever we go sideways, we identify some sort of flag, right? Whether it be a bull flag or a bear flag. And in the current state of where Bitcoin is currently, it's not looking very good, because we see the price action starting to fall below horizontal supports and, acting as resistance for that matter. So these are really interesting times for the cryptocurrency space, because if Bitcoin continues to show negativity, it could be that this consolidation or this slow distribution that we could be seeing here could eventually bring the prices down throughout the market significantly. So we got to be very careful here. So I think right now a strategy to, always ensure that you have a bit of dry powder to buy the dips, raise a bit of capital, that would be great. Take a bit of profit if you're in some significant gains, because all of this is very, very important, considering that ultimately we're going to see the market show some strength, obviously, but really what we want to do is protect those gains. I think that's a very viable scenario. Let's continue coming down. You can see that the overall market here, the top 100, pretty much the same. Look at all these fractals. They pretty much look the same. Slow grind to the upside, slow and steady. A few, better gainers like Aptos doing pretty good here, and there's a few others that we can take a look at, like Sui. All the newer layer ones are doing very well, like Celestia, Sui, and a few others. How's BitTensor doing? Tau kind of going sideways, down 5% as we speak. So you can see that generally speaking, the market is down to between 2 to 5% depending on the project. And then there's some random newer layer ones that are doing pretty good. Again, Celestia being one of them in the last bit has been showing strength. Helium has been doing pretty good, up 5% for the day. And as you can go down, the Fractal, another one, say a newer layer one doing very well, 4.5% to the upside. And as I said, we can see that the market in general is pretty sideways, and the fractals are fairly similar. So we got to be very careful with what's happening here as the market continues to, stay within that choppy price action, the chop zone, as I call it. All right, guys, let's take a look at Bitcoin. I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin our analysis talking about Bitcoin, and then we'll jump into ONDO, another layer one based part of the real world asset narrative. Could be another layer one that's going to be waking up very, very soon. And as we do see Bitcoin consolidate and form structure and give us, some sort of signals, doesn't mean that, ONDO is going to be doing well. well, does it mean that the rest of the space is going to be doing well? Well, let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Obviously, you know, we identified it very, very, you know, interesting levels in the last little while, and the horizontals are obviously my favorite. You guys know that horizontals ultimately give you a lot more value than diagonals. However, when we do identify the diagonals, it's interesting to identify the fact that there is a bit of a trend happening. Now, we do see that we did come back up. You know, that was quite bullish. That was very nice recovery. But the fact that we got rejected right at this critical zone once again is not looking good, because ultimately that confirms, you know, a lower high. That confirms the fact that maybe we could be coming down below again. And obviously, you know, a failed breakdown at this level basically means that we are in a bearish state, right? We can even backtest and still come down for that lower low. And it's all very possible. All of this is very, very possible. However, guys, we have to keep in mind that these are the times where a lot of people, a lot of positions get wrecked, in the sense that, you know, there's liquidity hunts all the time. If we go choppy right into this level, you can imagine that this level is going to induce a lot of pain. And the reason being is because we have the 200 daily EMA defining trend, and we also have this horizontal level of support or resistance depending on where we are at during the at a particular day. And you can see that based on the volume, we do have a lot of weakness right into this level. So this zone right here, starting at right around the white line, is a very important one, right? You can see that it's very important. Now, if we stay below it, I have no choice but to be bearish. If we stay above it, I have no choice but to be bullish. And this is where we're at right now. We have to let the market resolve itself. This is where a lot of people get trapped up. This is where a lot of people lose a lot of their profits, especially if you were able to get into a good trade the last little while. This is where you give it back to the market, right? In this choppy price action. Let's take a look at the oscillators real quick. You can see that the momentum is stuck in the chop zone. Let me just minimize that. We're now in the chop zone area with the 50% mark on the oscillator. It is usually where we see a lot of choppy price action. You can back test that. Every time we come into this level, you know, it starts to look very, very choppy, sideways. Now, do I want to get stuck into this zone, right? I don't really want to deal with this. I'd rather let it resolve. In my opinion, obviously, I do see that the potential is for a bit of a pullback, continuation down, and then obviously a higher low. That would be great, you know, some sort of double bottom, and then obviously get overbought. Once we get enough of an indication that we're going to do one of these, this is where I would see the momentum, you know, essentially get overbought, and this is where we get the biggest impulsive move to the upside. In the meantime, like I mentioned, it's not really a good trading zone because of the insecurity or the lack of confluence in the zone to suggest anything, because it is a descending broadening wedge, a megaphone pattern. And these types of patterns tend to want to break out bullish, right? Eventually, they do break to the upside, statistically speaking. They don't have to, but they statistically do. Now, the way we're, you know, positioned at this current moment doesn't look like very healthy. It doesn't look like it wants to break out bullish. We're below the horizontal, looking for bottom levels. Now, if we produce a higher low, that would be pretty good. At least a nice confirmation low, defining this low as the bottom. That would be pretty good. Let's come back up. Let's get back above the horizontal, back test it, and continue. These are all really good things that we could see. But in the meantime, I have no choice but to be very hesitant here, guys. You know, the market could be coming down further. As long as Bitcoin keeps on pushing down, guys, we could expect a continuation to the downside. Now, if you look at the trend, oscillator, you can see that we got EMAs still facing down. We looked like we were going to get a cross right into here. Then it opened up again and still facing down. So I don't like to see this. When I see the histogram bars do this, I don't like that. When it, you know, goes concave that way and, you know, the curve is inner, I don't like that. You know, we want it to be outer. We want an outie. We want something that goes like this, but, you know, it's not giving it to us. So we got to be very, very careful here that we continue to the trend to the downside after this fake out. And again, a lower low, double bottom, higher low. What do we get here? We're going to have to stay one step ahead and just try to, you know, catch what happens and react as the price action unfolds pretty much. So Bitcoin right now looking pretty bearish, looking not the greatest in the short term. As we confirm bottoms, as we find horizontal supports, even at lower time frames, you know, we are oversold in some time frames, like the 4 hour, we begin to get oversold. The volatility starts to come down. You can see that. And if we get into the 1 hour, we start to get into, oversold conditions, looking for a recovery. But as soon as you get into higher time frames, it's like, okay, maybe we need to take some time here and watch what happens. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's take a look at ONDO. ONDO, at the end of the day, is one of those projects that have been doing very well in the last little while. However, this dip right here, is taking back some of the gains. And as can be seen, we're desperately looking for a horizontal support. Now, it did a great move in the last little while. Nice recovery here, showing a lot of strength, buy opportunities everywhere right around this area. But you can see that now, like Bitcoin and like many other projects, it is currently trying to get bullish while still, shaking a lot of people out of their trades because of the volatility in this level. When we see the horizontals like this, and in fact, I can, as the price action, is unfolding, we can improve this horizontal. We can even put another line right around here. You can see this volume gap kind of, begin. So what I'm going to do is just put another horizontal. I don't like messing up my charts too much, but, I think it's very viable to understand that this volume gap right here, based on these wicks, we got a lot of confluence in this back test, in this bounce this way is pretty bullish, no doubt. But if we get into lower time frames, it doesn't look the greatest because, we really need to make sure that we get a confirmation right around this level, a nice double bottom. So if you plan on getting into a long position, this is not a bad scenario because really you're getting a lot of higher lows and higher highs here and trying to bounce above the horizontal and use it as support. That's pretty good. My only issue is that where do you put your stop loss, right? Because really, if you would have put your stop loss here or here, it could come down and hunt liquidity again. So down here, obviously the dip is too far. Over here, it's decent, but again, diagonals are not the greatest, horizontals are better, and I noticed that right around this level could be the best liquidity hunt. So yes, maybe down at this level putting a stop loss might be good, and that way you can see if it does get a bounce and it does get that support and it does continue making higher highs and higher lows into this level. However, guys, if we start zooming out and start looking at what really is happening, I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of bears that are going to be calling this, some sort of bear flag, where you're going to eventually come down for another dip. And that is also very, very possible. Just keep in mind that the market has been playing a lot of games lately. Okay, the volatility has been very, very crazy, especially leading into the, the end of the weekend. Yesterday, we saw a lot of volatility that went counter traditional technical analysis, right? So all of a sudden now we start seeing these opportunities. We start to question, where can we go in the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that we hunt the greatest amount of liquidity, and the greatest amount of liquidity on this chart is down here. This is where the majority of the hunt could actually happen, and we've seen a lot of altcoins down here at the bottom. Now, I'm not saying that ONDO is going to do that. What I am saying is that we've already seen, and we are seeing a lot of projects down here, tapping into all these early buyers, all these early bids at very, very low levels. Could it be that eventually ONDO gets to that spot, that eventually maybe after a few bounces we end up coming down here to hunt this liquidity? And if that were to happen, obviously it's a great idea to have a bit of capital reserve, but in the meantime we have to keep an eye on this level. We've had a good consolidation here with support and a rally up, and now we're down at the same level. Do we get another level of support with another rally up, or are we just coming down to see if we can break right through and knock down so we can get another leg to the downside? Remember, bears are going to be looking for bear flags, and bear flags are continuation patterns to the downside. And if that happens, ONDO is coming down, right? So we got to be prepared. We got to understand that really the market doesn't promise you anything, and we could be getting a reversal pattern here, but there's no indication of a higher high or a higher low at the current moment, right? All we all have been doing is low highs, lower lows. The trend is your friend. I don't know how low we're going to go here, but until we get a structural change, a change of character into this price action, even if we exclude the wicks, forget the wicks. If we come down, bounce, 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 at least we know we're going for a higher high, and then we go for a higher high and a higher low, and then we can start calling this a trend reversal. Right now, there's nothing here. There's not even a structure similar to, let's say, what happened here, where you can put a couple of stop losses below and call it a day and type of thing, right? You can easily obviously define a nice trend to the upside or something like that, you know, a nice triangular formation that was really, really bullish, but then obviously coming down and hunt liquidity to these levels got a lot of people wrecked. So this is a very unfortunate scenario, because really there's people that got in with buy orders here that this liquidity is currently being hunted, and for that matter, majority of it already, you know, is out of the market. We got new bids at these levels, 100% new bids. So this is the thing here with ONDO and many other projects. Is it time to buy the dip? I would say getting a bit of exposure is not a bad idea. Number one, you didn't buy the top. This is the top. And from the top, a lot of us are going to be able to experience a nice fire sale out of about 50% fire sale, which means that you can basically buy double the tokens that you were able to buy right around this level. That means that when the market goes bullish, you're able to, you basically have double the exposure, which is healthy for your portfolio. But it doesn't mean that it can come down further until we get structure. We should assume, like, again, until we get some sort of structure, we should assume that we are coming down here. If we get structure, it's a different story. We can get into this position a little bit more aggressive and then put a stop loss underneath the structure and then anticipate a reversal. But until then, be prepared that we could go sideways here and then come down for a bit of a dip. And if that's the case, that's where we deploy the rest of our dry powder. Reality is you should be deploying little by little as we get confirmations. And this is our first level of which I would be deploying a little bit of capital just to ensure I have some skin in the game, even if it's 50% of my bag, and reserve the next 50% right around here. And that way we can wait for, you know, how much liquidity can be hunted, how many of these people have weekends. And honestly, I don't think ONDO is going to come down to this level. I don't think it will, but of course there's no certainties. I think there's, you know, a lot of heavy players into ONDO. I think, you know, the real world asset narrative is very, very strong. I think there's going to be a lot of institutional money getting involved into these real world asset narratives. Tokenizing real world assets is definitely a hot narrative. So, you know, I don't think it's going to come down, but you never know. You never know. This is crypto, guys. It's the wild, wild west. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's the best at what we could do. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. See you tonight, 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Have a good one, and don't forget, buy the dip.